Okay. Sorry about that, everyone.
Thank you,
All
guys.
right. So quickly here on Bramble's history, you'll see that we date back to the 1800s, actually, and we've been through many different business models. The key in our key date in our history is really around 1950. The Australian government basically took over a pool of pallets and other assets after the war that nobody really wanted, and that's kind of how our business started, and then you'll see it evolve over the years where we've expanded out around the globe for pallets and also started buying up the container companies that I was speaking about. So this is our customer and product mix. Pallets is by far our largest offering, but within containers, this is a growing business unit for us. There's oil and gas, there's automotive, there's several other types of containers. We've even got into the airline container industry now. Again, all on the same pooling or rental model. And then RPCs are reusable plastic containers, and that's more in the fresh food and grocery industries. This is what some of the products look like. By far, our largest product is this blue pallet in here, but we do offer some other types of pallets as well. And then this is what the RPC crates look like. You'll probably notice them in your grocery store, and what some of our larger container offerings look like as well. And then this is the integrated supply chain model. So basically, we start with the pallet at our service center. We'll issue to a manufacturer. They'll load some product on it, like they can load paper towels or something, and canned foods, and then ship it to a retailer. Retailer will return to us, and then we start the cycle over again. We'll refurbish the pallets if needed. Similarly, on the RPCs, we'll go from grower to retailer and then back to us, and then the other containers, just depending on the need, to the producer, and then back around to us. On our value proposition, I won't read through all these, but there's a lot of advantages to a pooling model, which is how we've been able to grow so extensively over the years, and this slide just lists that value proposition. So any questions on CHEP as a business before I go ahead? Okay, then let me get into our specific project on Project Online and the work we did with Vibrant Fusion. So this slide is just about the challenges we had before we made this transition. On the portfolio management side, there were several things. One, we had a manual project onboarding process, and we were doing a lot of work outside the system, and had a lack of oversight or governance around which projects were coming into our portfolio. So lack of visibility there. Second, around document management and project collaboration, we do already use Microsoft tools in-house, including SharePoint. So each project was setting up its own SharePoint site, and then having to onboard the project team members there and use that for collaboration. Also around scheduling tools, our project managers really prefer Microsoft Project, which we already had in-house. The previous PPM tool that we were using and had migrated off, they had a scheduling tool and some linkage to MS Project, but it wasn't as robust, and there were challenges in downloading and then re-uploading that schedule back into the tool. Resource capacity planning we were doing manually and offline, and then between all these different systems, there was a heavy administrative burden on our PMs to really run their projects. And then finally, there were some licensing issues or constraints where we didn't have all of our business users loaded onto the project in that system, so they didn't have full visibility to what was happening. And then finally, we had some internal directives to reduce our costs on the PPM tool and also to rationalize the number of applications that we're using. So this is what our landscape looked like previously, where we did have a PPM tool in place. It was a SaaS solution. We were feeding into that a Word document, which was our project request form, and then going through that manual governance process to get a project approved before it got visibility onto the system. And then we were extracting a lot of data to produce dashboards and to do resource capacity planning. And then, as I mentioned, it was more of a one-way flow if we wanted to pull something out of that tool into MS Project, but we would have to manually make updates in the scheduling tool separately. And then finally, I mentioned around the SharePoint sites, documents and collaboration being a separate tool we were using to run our projects. So when we looked at the opportunity to move over to Project Online, what we saw is that we could essentially bring all that together into one tool. So everything at the top here is now managed within Project Online. So from the requests, we actually start the project and it just goes into an opportunity phase and then progresses through our project life cycle with some workflow approvals. We're doing some resource capacity planning. The scheduling piece is fully integrated with Project Pro, so it's a two-way direction here. So we're able to use the tool and get everything updated automatically. We're synced up. Also, we have connected project sites now, so when you create the project, it also creates the project site, so we've taken away that administration, and we have more standardization with the project site template for all our document management and collaboration. And then finally, we have some portfolio dashboards online as well. So when we did the solution evaluation, we looked at this and said we're really looking for an integrated solution. With the use of Microsoft tools in other areas, really the only one that could give us that full integration was Project Online. And it seemed to make sense to pull together all those tools in one. It's a comprehensive solution for our needs, so we are using a lot of what Microsoft provides on the right-hand side with time reporting and issue and risk management and collaboration, etc. This has been sufficient for our needs, the functionality that they've provided. It was a cost-effective solution and also flexible enough for us to evolve as internal needs change that we could adapt the tool. So those were the things we were looking for from the tool itself, and then from our implementation partner, we were looking for a pretty fast timeline. We were looking at maybe a 2 to 3 month project because we wanted to move off our other tool due to some contractual obligations, and it was kind of coming up to a year end. We were looking for somebody who was obviously knowledgeable of the Project Online solution, leverage best practices, and our preference was for a quick start. We felt that we already knew 80% or more of what we needed in the tool. We had been working in a PPM tool previously, and we really just wanted to replicate that functionality and tie everything together in one. So we didn't have to start from the very beginning, which some of the other companies we talked to wanted us to go to the very start and define all the requirements. And then finally, we looked at implementation cost as the final criteria there. So with Vibrant Fusion and their KwikPMO solution, what we were able to do was achieve a very quick implementation. It took us really less than 3 months, and that final month was around training. So we were able to get the tool configured very quickly, and the reason for that is because the KwikPMO solution gave us that 80% standard solution out of the box. And we were obviously wanting to leverage PPM best practices, which they've already taken into account in their solution. So we just had to customize that additional 20% that helped meet our needs, some things around reporting and custom fields and the like. The other benefits, it helped to eliminate several of the offline or manual systems. It linked up our project sites, so the project site and the team site are now linked together and all built off the template. We were able to configure the custom fields and pages that we needed within the solution, and as well as build issue risk, change logs, etc. So standard project management methodology. We also built some custom workflow around our project lifecycle, and this was one piece of work that Vibrant Fusion helped us with separately to make sure we had the right workflow in place. Also, their solution came with standardized project status reports, which was a help to us that in the past we didn't really have that standard integrated into our solution. And then we also came up with a bit of a unique solution on our project sites where we incorporated some templates that we have into a OneNote notebook, and then that became our standard as we rolled out additional projects, that those would already be built into the projects and be accessible for our project managers. And then since we were already on a tool, it was a relatively easy transition for our end users. This solution looked very familiar to them, at least the functionality within, and we were able to get everybody trained and moved over in a relatively short period of time. So I'll stop there for any questions before I go into a short system demo.
Any questions?
Okay. Before I move off this screen here, so this is what our home page pretty much looks like. We've got the different blocks in the middle, and then the menu path down the left-hand side. So pretty easy access for our users. And then these blue tiles, for the most part, came with KwikPMO. I think we added the action items and the reports at the end there. Okay. So let me just back out of this, and what I've done is pulled up our system and just pulled up one of the projects we currently have in an opportunity stage here. So it's really just starting, and this is kind of a placeholder project, but it should give you a feel for what our system looks like, and then I can answer any questions. So at first, we've built in our workflows. If you look at the bottom, we go through various stages of a project, and those would all be workflow controlled here with proper approvals to advance from one phase to another. And then down the left-hand side here, these are the project detail pages that I was speaking about. So for each of these, we have custom fields that we've built up. There's various ways to do it with text or date format or the like. So So we've put on the custom fields we need on each of these tabs. This business case tab is where we've basically incorporated a lot of our onboarding. So we are able to put all the information in here and then do a proper evaluation of the project before approving it. We also have something called business drivers that just helps us rate a project and compare it to other projects by getting a score of how this project is going to benefit the business compared to other projects that might be in the portfolio pipeline. We have some information around project financials, and then one thing that we've added recently, so again, flexible where we can add additional pages or fields. We've kind of put in budgeting information so we can add projects for future and have kind of a rolling 3-year budget cycle directly within the tool. We have some status reporting, and we've recently modified this where you could see we've put in a picture with some definitions of what red, yellow, green means, so some guidance for our project managers. And then finally the schedule, which you have the online version, and then you can also take this out to a project professional very easily and update it there. And then here's the linkage to the project site. So this gets created at the same time the project is created, and this is really the collaboration side. We can have our business team members join this as well as our internal IT project team members. It does take just a second to load up, and then I'll quickly show you the key components we use.
Mark, while that's loading, I'm wondering if you migrated any data from the existing PPM tool into Project Online.
We did, but we did it manually. So we had extracted all the active projects, and then we kind of used that as a training tool for our project managers to reload them into the new tool. When we divvied it up, it was, I don't know, maybe 8 or 10 projects for each PM and a few other people to load in, and we just did it that way.
Oh, good. Okay. And just a general comment, I like how the site looks. I know I've seen KwikPMO in the past, but it's nice to see that you can customize that page.
Oh. Thank you. Yeah, we did a bit of that, but a lot of this was out of the box, and then we just took it and added the few things that we thought were important. Action items here was one. They had already come with issues, risks, and changes. So, yeah, you can do a bit of customization with them. As I said, this project hasn't really gotten started, but you could see the project status tiles here. This was another thing. I think it comes with one row of tiles, and we added another row, so we basically have one around cost and one around schedule here for our PMs to have an easy view of the data. And then on the project phases, this is what I was talking about, our workflow, and then under these we just put some quick links to some of the key documents that would be delivered with each phase of the project. If we look at the left-hand side here, this is where we collaborate on documents. So our standard template breaks it up by our phases, and then the PMs can be putting in the documents for those particular phases. They can also create new folders as needed for the project. There's a discussion board, there's a project calendar, and then there's a project notebook here. So this was kind of the key enhancement that we made at the time of the project. It does come with a OneNote notebook, but it would normally be empty. And what we've done, you can see that by the list here, is we've built in all of our templates. They won't all be used on every project, but this provides the PM with quick access to the templates that we do use. I'll just show you an example, like a project close report here. So in each stage of the project, they can just quickly go, the template's here, and then they can just fill it out. So it's asking, did you complete certain deliverables or administrative tasks throughout the project? They could capture lessons learned and other things directly in this template. So we had an intern that helped us with this, and we had offline templates in Word, and they just converted it all into this one notebook. Something like meeting minutes is another good one, where you can capture all that here rather than in an email, and then you just have it all integrated with your project site. Okay, so without getting into too much detail, that's the basics. A lot of the other things here are either integrated with that notebook, or it goes to like the SharePoint lists that you see here for issue risk, change management, etc. when we get into execution. So I'll pause there for any questions.
Hi, this is John Budzinski. I have a couple questions regarding your startup and in your intake process. For the opportunity, am I hearing that right, that the opportunity piece is essentially your project request?
Yeah, so the way we do it is we have what we call business relationship managers that are out working with our business on new projects. We allow them to put anything they like into the system as an opportunity. As long as it's sitting there as an opportunity, we're really not considering that part of our portfolio yet. But when they gather enough information about the opportunity, they will submit the workflow, which will be a request to move from opportunity to idea. And at that time, that triggers that project to show up on our IT intake board. And then we have an intake review where we basically vet some of that information and make sure that it's ready to advance through our portfolio. If not, we'll set it back to opportunity.
And just roughly at any time, how many do you have in the opportunity phase?
Yeah, so real opportunities, I would say there's probably about maybe 40 or 50. We do have a fairly large portfolio. We're running anywhere from about 75 to 100 projects at any one time. And we are usually looking at least a year or two ahead in our roadmaps. So we'll start to get those items in, at least from a budgeting perspective, but some may not advance for some time.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Did you have to do any custom development work, like web parts or anything like that?
No, not really. The only thing we did is on the project side. Well, over here, there's just small piece, and Vibrant Fusion had built this whole page for us with the different web parts. On the project details side, we continue to modify these as needed. So there are web parts in each of these. They call them project detail pages. Like I was showing you on the status, we recently modified this one and put in some definitions and the like. So small things, but nothing real complex. And we do have a team that's knowledgeable in SharePoint that's been able to help us with some of that as well.
Oh, good. And with the training that was provided, did you feel that your team members were able to get up and running pretty quickly and able to make the changes that they needed on the project management side?
Yeah, so we had several levels of training. We had our project managers, we had our resource managers who had to approve timesheets and the like there, and then we had our regular end users or team members. The team member transition was fairly easy, and we actually used some videos for that. Of course, adoption is another story, but you know, for the ones that came on the system, it was relatively easy for them to learn how to do their timesheets. They were already familiar, and also to you know, to manage the tasks that were assigned to them. We did have a bit of a lesson learned in training our project managers, which we tried to do that before we were completely finished building our site. And we had several questions raised during that training. For one, Project Pro was somewhat new to a few of them, and we had been using that online scheduling tool I had told you about in the last project. So there was a bit of a learning curve on Project Pro because it's so robust. And then as we found some questions or issues in that training, we basically had to circle back with our PMs and just make sure that they were really comfortable with the tool. So we did 2 rounds with them. And then the resource managers as well, those are a little bit senior level people, so they pretty much learned what they needed to do as far as timesheet tracking and approvals, but you know, it did take a little work to get everybody on board and adopting the tool.
Right. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Andy, let me know if I'm missing anything here, or if you want to add any commentary.
Nope, spot on.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Deepika, I can hand it back to you if there's no other questions.
Sounds good. Thanks, Mark. I know you mentioned about training. I think the one unique aspect of training that we did for CHEP was we trained your global users through your video conferencing.
That's true.
Center in, I think it was in Atlanta, and I think that worked really well. You know, some customers do ask us how we do the training just from for international users, and we just found that the system we used at CHEP really worked well because our trainer was at the U.S. location, and we had international attendees join the video conferencing, which kind of made it a little bit as close to live as possible, versus giving them, you know, a whole day worth of recordings to go through. I know from our architect's perspective, that was a good way for them to train folks that were not physically here in the U.S. And then the other thing I want to mention is we do this typically for a lot of our customers as well, is team member training. We typically use a train the trainer model where we'll train a couple folks within our customers who then go out and train the team members, just because typically you have a large number of team members to be trained, and it can be pretty costly if you have us kind of doing all the training. So in CHEP's case, we did a recording again on their facility, and we provided that recording over to the team members. But a lot of times we do train the trainer models where we will have the architect record the session or train a few folks who then go out and train the rest of the organization. So, and you know, just on the topic of training and change management is an important piece for every project online deployment. And we find that one of the pieces or methodology that gets us a bit unique as well from our competitors is our architects who actually help through the deployment, through the implementation, are the ones who train your end users as well. And I want to say all of our customers like that model just because then the training includes the process piece and the understanding of the architect through the implementation. So it kind of makes the change management aspect of it a little bit easier to manage. So just quickly wanted to mention those things. Erin, do you want to back on your side? I don't know if you have any quick wrap-up slides, but just housekeeping items here. We will be sending out a survey at the end of this. And please do give us your feedback, and we would be happy to also hear from you in terms of what topics you're most interested in for our future webcasts. And then any questions that come to mind, like after the presentation, you can send that over to us as well. Mark's email ID is on the screen here, and Erin's going to send out the survey, so you'll have her contact information as well. All right, any questions? Erin, did I miss anything? Are we good to close this out? Oops, Erin's having trouble with her audio again. All right, so I guess if we don't have any questions here, we can end the recording, and we will share the recording out with the attendees. And thank you again for joining.